What a group.
Come on in, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everyone. Come on in, find a seat. Come on in, friends. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to start tonight on page 10, welcoming each other by saying, Hinei matov u'ma na'im, how good and pleasant it is to be here together as brothers and sisters, family and friends.
Hinei matov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hinei matov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad.
Hinei matov u'ma na'im, how good and pleasant it is to be here as brothers and sisters, family and friends, as we join together in celebrating Shabbat. And I know that every time we come together, that everyone comes to this space for different reasons. Some are here for celebration, others are here to honor a loss in their lives, others are here just to celebrate Shabbat, but I hope that whatever it is that brings you here this evening, that you find what it is you're looking for. So we are celebrating a bar mitzvah tomorrow in our congregation, and I have to tell you that this is a bar mitzvah that I'm very excited about, but also a little bit sad about, because the young man becoming a bar mitzvah, every time that I have talked to his family over the past, whatever it was, like 10 years or so, I say, hey, when are you moving home? And the answer has still always been not yet. So they're still not yet moving home, but we at least get to have the bar mitzvah here. So it's my pleasure to invite our bar mitzvah, Noah Reeby, and his parents, and Micah Reeby. Noah, you're next. Even if you don't live here, you're still next. Micah and Noah and Marissa and Alex, will you guys come up and help us light the Shabbat candles? Come on up, my friends. And we're going to start on page 2.
Amen.
Yes, nicely done, Noah. You know what's up. You- Thank you. We know that whenever we celebrate Shabbat together, that it becomes a joyous time. And so one of the ways that we honor this time is by being able to imagine Shabbat as if Shabbat were a bride, this special, beautiful spirit entering into our midst. And so we sing the words of Lecha Dodi on page 20, welcoming the Sabbath bride.
O lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat lekabela. O lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'letela. O lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. O lecha dodi likrat kala
b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha uv'tzala toch emunei hamsegula. Boi chala o lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. O lecha dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
So sometimes we imagine that Shabbat is a bride coming into our midst, but other times we imagine that Shabbat is brought in by the angels. And while sometimes in Jewish tradition we don't focus a lot on angels, it is part of what we believe, that there are these angelic beings that are with us, that maybe actually these angels are among us. And so we welcome angels into our home every time we celebrate Shabbat together. We do it with the words of Shalom Aleichem on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Boachem leshalom, Malachei hashalom, Malachei hashalom, Malachei elyon, mi
מלאכי עליון, מלך מלאכי המלכים, הקדוש, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Seichem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, melech, malachei hamlachim, hakadosh, hakadosh baruch hu. On the bottom of 27, it reads, entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. And so we rise and call each other to worship on page 28.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
On the bottom of 29, we read responsively, O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence.
אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו מעריב ערבים בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם בקיע כצאנו אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור 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 ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו מעריב ערבים, בחוכמה פותח שערים, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשפטיהם בקיע כרצונו. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבי.
On 33, we read, As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we join in Shema on 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam
Please be seated. Ve'ahavtam et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta b'ham בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. On 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Mi chamocha ba'ilim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Mi chamocha, mi chamocha ba'ilim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh. Nora tehilot osef eleh. Mi chamocha
join me in the English on the bottom of 42. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. And we rise together on page 46 for words of tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagita yilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotzeinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mebig Ula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Ba'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav L'Hoshia. Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'ofech Olim, Umatzir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lechayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Please be seated. So this time we're going to take a few moments and turn our thoughts and our hearts to those members of our community who are in need of healing. And this version of the prayer we're going to do, you've heard it before, don't worry. These words actually that we're going to sing, while they're not the ones that Debbie Friedman wrote, they are the ones that Moses said. And the idea is that we offer these words just like Moses said for his sister Miriam when she was ill, who said, El na rafan Allah, God, please heal her. And so we take this time, we turn our hearts to anyone who's in need of healing as we sing El na rafan Allah.
El na rafan Allah, refuah shleima. El na rafan Allah, refuah shleima. Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Yimale Rachamim Alehem. May God heal us with strength and compassion, and the will to revive our soul.
So if there's someone you're thinking of at this time who could use healing prayers and who would appreciate knowing that their names were being shared here, I would invite you to do so. thinking tonight of Lacey Weinstein, of Arlene Alper, and of Drew Patchen, and of all those names that we're thinking to ourselves. For them and for us, we ask God, El Na Rafana Lanu.
רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף, a renewal of body and of spirit, and let us say Amen. El Na Rafana Refuah Shlema El Na Rafana Refuah Shlema.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O God. Yehiyu leratzon imrei fi be'egyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri
So earlier this week, I had a pretty cool experience where my friend Sasha here interviewed me for a project that she was doing for her school. Now, I will tell you, there are actually quite a few alum of Merrimack Elementary who are here tonight, so don't worry, I did teach her the Merrimack song from 1984, so she knows it now, in case you were worried that she would win. But Sasha was talking to me about the Blue Square campaign. And how many of you have heard of this before? Okay, so the Blue Square campaign is, it's part of this campaign to stand up to Jewish hate. And it's a campaign that is supposed to educate all Americans about the rise of anti-Semitism, and it's supposed to really mobilize people, especially outside of the Jewish community. And so what they're doing is they're taking this little blue square, and the first time I think they did it was on the show The Voice, and they put a little blue square in the corner of the screen, and it only took up a tiny portion of the screen. It took up like 2.4% of the screen, because that's how much of the population Jews are in America. We are 2.4% of the population, yet 55% of hate crimes in this country happen to Jews. And so the idea is that this blue screen was supposed to be appearing on this television show, and you can get it on Facebook, and you can get it on your phone, and people were supposed to be putting it out there to raise awareness of anti-Semitism. But I have to tell you that until I met with Sasha, I didn't know about it. I had seen it once before. Actually, last weekend, Rabbi Michael and I were in New York, and we saw it in Times Square, which was really cool. But even then, I didn't really know exactly what it was. And it's sort of hard to know why. Because it seems like this is something that everyone should know about. And it's not just that I don't watch The Voice, right? Rabbi Michael is home with sick kids tonight, but if you were to say, is Rabbi Amy on Facebook? He would be like, yeah, all the time. So it's not that I'm not on Facebook enough. I am, don't you worry. But I didn't see it. And the mere fact that here we are in this crowd of Jews, and there were maybe 5 of you who raised your hands, means somehow this campaign is not quite working. And so the question is, why? Now, you might think that it's because not a lot of money has been thrown at it, but it has, because this campaign was started by Robert Kraft, who owns the Patriots. That's apparently a sports team. It's a big deal. And he put $25 million of an investment into this campaign. So it's not that there wasn't money or weren't powerful people behind it. There were some people who said that maybe the idea of having like hashtag stand up to Jewish hate, that maybe we were trying to co-opt someone else's movements. There's also maybe this idea that some of us sort of feel like all of these empty social media moments just aren't getting us anywhere. But when I did a little digging and tried to figure out from other people why they were not themselves putting the blue square on their Facebook pages or anywhere else, what a lot of folks said was they felt like it was mixed messaging, because they didn't understand, was the blue square about being against anti-Semitism, or was it about supporting Israel? Because they didn't necessarily feel that they wanted to do both. So my friends, we have a problem here. At what point did we get to this time in history where supporting Israel and being against anti-Semitism are not synonymous? Why are those not the same thing? Now, I want to be clear, because I know some of you are not here every week, so I do want to make clear that a month or two ago, I did give a sermon in which I said we should be questioning Israel, and we should. Absolutely, as American Jews, we have every right to question what goes on in the government of Israel and to raise our concerns in the same way that we do with our own country. Absolutely. When you love a place and when you feel loyalty and they are doing things that you don't agree with, we have every right to ask the big questions and to raise our voices when something doesn't feel right. But something has happened in America. We seem to have forgotten that nearly all of the values that so many of us share, and a lot of these are very liberal values, the ideas of freedom of religion, of respect for human life, of respect for women's rights, of respect for the LGBT community, that all of these are shared by Israel. So what is it that has started making us think that we as Jews, or that we as Americans, are not comfortable putting up a little blue square that says that we support Israel? We are here tonight and we are honoring what we refer to as the Yoms. Because on this week of the Jewish calendar, we have these holidays that are back to back. Last week, we were honoring Yom HaShoah, which is Holocaust Remembrance Day. And then we have Yom HaZikaron, which is the day where we are remembering fallen soldiers in Israel, and then Yom HaAtzmaut, Israeli Independence Day. And this is the 75th anniversary of Israel, which is pretty amazing. And we always have these 3 holidays together because these are new holidays. These are not holidays that you're going to find in the Torah or anything like that. They are new holidays. And we always put them together because we know that those 3 things go hand in hand, that somehow the Shoah, the Holocaust, and the idea of soldiers who sacrificed their lives for Israel and Israel's independence, that all of these things have to go hand in hand. But unfortunately, we have found that in these past years, that one of the ways that they go hand in hand is when we think about anti-Semitism, that a lot of times where it comes out is in a new kind of anti-Semitism that is about being anti-Israel. I say it's new. It's not really that new, but we are seeing it now more than ever. And the problem with this new anti-Semitism is that it can hide sort of behind the veneer of legitimate criticism of Israel, and so sometimes it is really hard for us to spot. And so years ago, in 2006, Natan Sharansky, he's an Israeli politician, and he came up with this idea of how we can really spot when anti-Israel sentiment is actually anti-Semitism. And while this is not new, I think that similarly to the Blue Square campaign, it's one of these things that a lot of us somehow missed out on what he had to say. So Natan Sharansky, he comes up with these 3 Ds, and these are the ways that you recognize when someone is talking about Israel in a way that is not just anti-Israel, but anti-Semitic. The first D is demonization. And this is the idea that anytime we look at things or people in Israel, that we are demonizing them. It's when actions are absolutely blown out of proportion. This is when you see Israeli soldiers being described as bloodthirsty or barbaric. When I think about, and I read the Post-Dispatch every day, and I love the Post-Dispatch, but when I think about even the photos that I've seen in the Post in the past few weeks, they are not of the Israeli soldiers that so many of us know and love. It's this idea of depicting Israelis, and especially soldiers, in the harshest of ways. It's when you see comparisons made between Israelis and Nazis, or when you hear people talk about Palestinian refugee camps and Auschwitz. Those are not fair comparisons, and we call that demonization. The second D is the test of double standards. And this is when criticism of Israel is applied selectively just to Israel. And when it's singled out by the world for human rights abuses, when we know that these abuses are happening in other places. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that it is acceptable for them to happen in Israel. But my friends, we know that in Libya there are open-air slave markets. And we know that in China that the Uyghurs are being put into concentration camps. And we know that in Iran there are no rights for women. And we know that in Gaza, if you are gay, they are going to throw you off the roof. So when Israel is singled out again and again, when we know that the UN Human Rights Council has passed countless resolutions condemning the state of Israel, and this council was formed in 2006, it has passed more resolutions condemning Israel than the rest of the world combined. We call that a double standard. And the third D is the test of delegitimization. That's the idea of Israel's fundamental right to exist being denied. It's saying alone of all peoples in the world that the Jews are not entitled to a land to call their own. It's delegitimization when you hear people claim that the Jewish state is an apartheid state, or that Jews are the colonizers, or when you hear people claim that Palestine should be able to be reclaimed from the river to the sea. All of these are delegitimizing the idea that Israel deserves to exist. When we hear these, it's not just anti-Israel sentiment, folks, it is anti-Semitism. And we need to be able to recognize that for what it is. At the end of my interview with Sasha, she asked me this question, and she said, will it keep going? And it was one of these times where you asked me this question, and I answered it without thinking about it. Because what she was really asking me was, will the Blue Square campaign keep going on and on? But in my head, I thought she meant, will anti-Semitism keep going? And my immediate response was, yeah, it will, which I feel terrible about saying. But it will. We know that anti-Semitism is a part of our lives. It is what it means to be a Jew. It is something that all of us and our grandparents and our great-grandparents and all the way back that we have dealt with. But that doesn't mean that there isn't this possibility of being able to feel like there is a place where we can feel free and we can feel safe, and that is the land of Israel. Sometimes we talk about Yom HaAtzmaut, about Israel Independence Day, and we say that were it not for Yom HaShoah, were it not for the Shoah, that we would not have Israel. That is not true. But if we had Israel, would the Shoah have happened in the way it did? You know, I have to tell you that when I was preparing for tonight, and those of you who know me well know that I never use notes. And I had to use notes tonight because this is such a big deal, and I didn't want to mess up what it was that I was saying to you. But this is scary. It scares me when I hear these kind of comments about Israel, and it scares me to think that there was this marvelous campaign that was supposed to be able to help people understand anti-Semitism, and crickets. We're hearing crickets because people felt like it was about Israel. So here's my nechemta for you. Nechemta is supposed to be this moment of hope at the end of the sermon. So here's my nechemta for you. You know, we're here honoring all of these yoms, but today itself is actually a special holiday too. Today is called Shabbat Tkuma. It is the Shabbat that falls between all of the yoms, and Tkuma means revival. And we're supposed to have this special holiday because it's supposed to remind us of the way that the Jewish people were revived from the Shoah to the state of Israel. But maybe instead we can look at it as being a Tkuma, a revival for all of us, to regain our love and our understanding for the state of Israel, to understand that it is a place that we need as individuals and we need as a community, and that doesn't mean that we can't criticize it. But the remarkable thing that you've seen in Israel in the past few weeks was you saw Israelis who felt that their own state was at risk, and what did they do? Man, they took to the streets and they changed things. What everyone was so worried about in Israel, maybe there's a little pause. Maybe things will get better. It shows us that if we are serious and we lift our voices and we do something about the anti-Israel sentiment, about anti-Semitism, that maybe actually we can make a difference. So let this be our Tkuma. Let this be our revival. And may this be a year as we celebrate Israel's 75th birthday, that we can say that our hearts have been revived and that we know that this land is a land that we love and we will make sure is here for another 75 years and more. Shabbat Shalom. So, I'm going to ask you now, if you will, to please rise, and we're going to turn together on page 282 at the bottom for the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. On page 287, may we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ
ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
So as we turn towards the conclusion of our service, we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Jerome Davis, Lois Lesser, Harold Sarner, Eve Wild, Vivian Zwick. And we now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. Harry Alschuler, Della B. Berger, Samuel Berliner, Ralph Bloomberg, Bernard Blumenfeld, Oliver W. Braun, Eli Cohen, Grant Cohen, Manny Coppersmith, Ida Edison, Arthur Epstein, Eva Heichenfeld, Max Fox, Teresa Fremder, Virginia Freund, Betty Gershman, Audrey Glavinsky, Louis Goldman, Jane Freund Harris, Harry Holtzman, David Nevin Jacobson, Raphael Ralph Kalish, William Katz, Jeanette F. Liberman, George Milius, Morris Missler, Dorothy Molaski, Joan Knackman, Edwin Olshansky, Evelyn Jane Perlmutter, Sylvia Podell, Nathan George Rockman, Louis Ross, Marvin Schmidt, Leo Schwab, Clifford Schanfeld, Lori Schanfeld, May Siegel, Celia Siegfried, Ruth Sobel, Fred Suffian, Stanley Victor, Estelle Washauer, Jacob Wasserman, and Jonas Wheel. So with these names and the names we keep in our hearts, we turn together to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach chirte v'yamlich malchute, b'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam omei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'rechu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushvachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma ve'emru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'emru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'immeru amen. So before we turn to our closing song, just a few brief announcements. First of all, thank you to the Ruach Band, beautiful as always. I also want to thank Guy, our Shinshin Guy. Give a wave to everyone. This Guy. So Guy is our Shinshin. We only have him for a little while longer, but he is here as an emissary from Israel and is here to sort of be with us all year to talk about his experiences, and he made the hummus, ladies and gentlemen, and spent a lot of hours doing it. So I hope you got some hummus, but I also want to encourage you that Guy is here to be able to sort of talk about Israel and about his experiences, so if you can snag a moment with him, he's pretty awesome. We also have a few wonderful things coming up. If you're interested in learning more about Israel, Rabbi Michael is teaching a class this Sunday morning at 9:45 just about the question, why Israel? So while your kids or your grandkids are in religious school, you also can be in grown-up religious school. That is allowed. And then also on Sunday, Rob, is it at the J? Yes, at the J, we have a big community-wide Yom HaAtzmaut celebration. Rob Litz in the back. Rob, give us a little wave. You can ask Rob all about it because he has been representing Temple Israel and the community there, and we have all other stuff coming up. We've got the Israeli Film Festival. We've got Education Shabbat. There's so much to do, so we hope that you will come back for more. But we're going to do one closing song before we send you out for a few more treats, and we thought that it was worth doing Hatikva. So Hatikva is on page 374. Encourage you to sing.
Kod balevav penima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulfate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Od lo avda tikva Shabbat Shalom.